So we've now got the full season of Alien Earth, and let's talk about it. This will be a bit more of a spoiler talk. So if you don't want spoilers, click off and watch my episode by episode breakdowns instead. Thoughts. But yeah, let's talk spoilers here. So I really enjoyed this show. I enjoyed the sci-fi elements of it all. I really enjoyed the world building that it did for the Alien franchise. But I do have an issue with some of its. I do have some issues with it. And one of them being, I just feel like some of the characters were underdeveloped. I think that they could have had an extra episode to develop these characters. But here's the thing, I think they still could have done an 8 episode season by adding an extra episode to develop the characters at the middle of the season. Why is that? Because, as I mentioned in my episode 8 thoughts, I think episode 8 doesn't work as a finale. And episode 7, as I mentioned in my episode 8 thoughts and my episode 7 thoughts, episode 7 is a much more climactic finale to the show than episode 8 is. I think episode 8 would have worked better as episode 1 of a second season because it does a good job of recapping events from the finale, which concluded the storylines of the season, and it sets up for a new season of stories. And I just don't like this episode's ending as compared to last week's episode, like last week's ending. Last week's ending, it just works way better for a finale than this week's ending. This week's ending would have been a great, oh, okay, now next week I get a follow-up to this story, because it sets up a season much like a episode 1 would. And because of that, I'm like a little torn on liking the show as a whole right now. It feels like they were uncertain if they could get renewed for a new season, so they had to cram in this storyline last minute, and thus at the expense of some character development for our hybrids, because I don't think that the show does a good job of building up towards that in episode 8 of everything that happens with our hybrids in episode 8. And because of that, I think it would have worked better as an episode 1, so we had one more episode to get to know some of our lesser developed hybrids. Mostly in the case of Curly, I think she did not get a lot to do in this show. And then in episode 8 is like when a bulk of her character is like developed, but it all felt way too rushed and like, oh yeah, I'll just accept that now. And it just doesn't work for me. But like I said, if this was an episode 1 and we had like an extra episode to get more info on Curly as a whole, I think it would have worked better. But yeah, I enjoyed the show. It's a good show. It's got some great moments. One of the best episodes I've seen of sci-fi was that episode 5. I really enjoyed that. And I did really enjoy how they did bring us to the spaceship crash, the events leading up to the crash in the show in a flashback during the midway point, roughly. So that was solid and amazing. It was the best episode of the show, and it was very alien vibes. I loved it. It was great. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, we needed to see this flashback because it's important for one of the characters' stories. But I do feel like they could have also added like another episode for background on our hybrids, because I do feel like a majority of them were underdeveloped. Smee was a little underdeveloped. Curly was super underdeveloped, as I already mentioned. And Isaac was meh. Nibs was alright. Wendy definitely was the main character, so she had a lot. And oh my god, who's the other one? Slightly also was alright, but good show. The finale just left me a bit disappointed as a whole, but hopefully this gets renewed for a new season, because I do kind of want to see more of this story, because I enjoyed it. It was cool, and I do like the world and its world building, and I just want to see more of the xenomorph going crazy. So yeah, That's pretty much all I have to say about this. I do really enjoy the show. I do recommend you check it out. If, but like, it does have its problems. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment down below your thoughts and opinions on the show as a whole. If you've seen it, or I guess now you're planning on seeing it, even though I spoiled some of the things. Not really, though, at the same time, but who cares? Subscribe if you haven't already, and other than that, I'll leave you guys to it.